Looks like we got a good bit of people popping in right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and get us
Nice.
started. Hey, for everybody who joined, thank you for joining today. I'm gonna dive into the typical spiel for the Roofing Success Series. Oh, it was 2 weeks ago. It's about good. I'm not losing my mind then. I'm gonna dive into a quick spiel of like what the Roofing Success Series is, what you guys can expect for those of you who have not been here before. For those of you that have, as always, bear with me, and then we'll dive into some housekeeping and dive in with our guest today, Paul Scelsi, somebody really cool guy. We've been chatting for what, 4 or 5 years now, Paul? Like
George,
on and
yes.
off. Yeah, so I think this is our first time meeting face to face outside of phone
Yes.
calls. So thank you. Honored to have you on
Thank
here
you.
today. But with that being said, guys, Roofing Success Series, right? What it's about, always like to dive into that, and why I built it, what you should expect to get out of it. So that way, if we meet those expectations, great, be happy with me. If not, shoot me a message. Say, hey, George, you suck. I always appreciate that feedback. As long as it's constructive too, right? How can we make it better? That's my goal. But I started the Roofing Success Series not too long ago, not as long as Paul's been doing his Ask the Expert seminars about February of this year. So we're what, 4 months in now? So nothing crazy, but built a good audience. Appreciate all of you that come on. But the reason I built it is I noticed an overwhelming trend in the roofing industry, and that's that every roofing company thinks they need more leads, more appointments, but that's typically not the case, right? And I know a majority of lead brokers are happy to shove a few leads down your throat and wish you luck, but that's not the direction I wanted to go in. What I found is there's a lot of things outside of just lead generation that roofing company owners need to be successful. And that could be anything from making sure your profitability stays high, right? That could be proper operations, that could be tax strategy, making sure that you're actually taking cash home at the end of the day. It could also be sales management, making sure that you're effectively managing your leads, appointment setting, right? A lot of different things go into running a successful roofing company outside of just installing the roof. But installing the roof and doing it properly so that it lives a long time is also important. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of customer complaints, which at the end of the day is going to eat into your company's profitability. And so I just like to bring on people who I believe are much smarter than me, Paul being one of those people, to talk a
Sure.
little bit about what they know. So before we dive in, guys, just like to do some housekeeping. I know we have a lot going on in our day to day between taking care of our team, fielding customer calls, dealing with all the little fires that occur as a business owner. Today, what I want to do is I want to challenge you guys to do something a bit different because I take the time to carefully research and vet each of our speakers before bringing them on here, right? I want to make sure that this is the most value packed hour of your week. And so, in order for you to get the most out of that, you're going to have to pay attention. And so, what I'm going to challenge you to do is take your phone, and I always throw my phone over here on my office couch. Hopefully, it doesn't hit the floor. Throw it somewhere, throw it in a drawer. It stayed on the couch, didn't hit the floor this time. Any other windows you have open on your computer, just close them down and take out a notepad and just get prepared to learn something new. And so, with that being said, this will be partial presentation, mostly Q&A, right? So we're going to be diving into some Q&A with Paul. He'll be going over a little bit about how to build better roofs. Would that be a good summary of it, Paul?
That's good, George.
Okay.
Yes.
Build better roofs. Not trying to proclaim himself as an expert. I think he is, but doesn't try to proclaim that. Um, but how to build better roofs so there's more longevity. You do better by your homeowners, and at the end of the day, build a better business, right? Because the quality of the um, kind of product or the service that you provide does determine the quality of your business at the end of the day. And so with that being said, Paul, you've been doing this, I think you said since 98.
I have. Yes. The seminar that I host for Airvent started in 1998.
And to give you guys a reference, I was born in 96, so Paul's shorter than I've been alive. So definitely a good track record there. But he doesn't try to proclaim himself as an expert. He's been working with roofing companies like you to help build better roofs across North America. And so I brought him on today to chat bit about that, do some Q&A. I have quite a few questions lined up for Paul for things I want to learn about that I think will help you guys too. But if you have questions as we go through it, feel free to drop them in the chat. And when you do, if you want to come on, if you want to ask a question yourself, just make a note of that. If you just want us to answer it, you can also just drop it in the chat and you don't have to come on, right? You can continue to just linger in the audience. There's nothing wrong with that either.
Right.
But with that being said, Paul, appreciate you coming on today. Do you mind just giving
Yeah.
everybody a quick intro into yourself and kind of what you do before we dive into
Sure. George, thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here and I've enjoyed corresponding with you. And today it's good to meet you face to face. My name is Paul Scelsi. I'm Marketing Communications Manager at Airvent, a manufacturer of attic ventilation products owned by Gibraltar. I'm working in the Dallas, Texas office. I'm a remote worker these days, but Dallas, Texas is my base. And I was hired in 96 by Airvent, the year you were born, George. And
Very good.
2 years into the job, so my background is communications. I'm a closet sportscaster, newscaster. I studied journalism and broadcasting in school formally. And 2 years on the job, I was hired to do, this is when paper was still pretty prominent, print, marketing and educational content for the industry, mostly paper-based. But 2 years on the job, Airvent launched this seminar that I host still today, Attic Ventilation, Ask the Expert. And honestly, I'm very proud of the program. It was not my idea. I was asked to get involved in it. It has become a collection of best practices, mistakes to avoid, and how to make the roof be more sound and have a longer lifespan by moving air through the attic. And one of the benefits as the host, so we travel, it's like a Taylor Swift or pick your favorite rock band concert. It's 30, 40 cities in 12 rapid weeks, January and early April. But I get to talk to roofing pros all across North America, George, and they share with us. They with us, hey, we had this project, it didn't go so well. Hey, we had this challenge and we tried this and now it's improved. So we bundle that content into a fast moving, hopefully engaging format in the seminar that I host. And today I'm going to share some of the highlights of that we during this little visit today. Yes, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate you sharing that.
You're
Um,
welcome. You're welcome.
yeah, it's crazy. So since I was born, you've been doing this.
Pretty much. Yeah,
There
that's
we go.
okay. That's all right. Yeah. So yes, if we just dig right in, George, and the the is please, when possible, try to provide balanced attic ventilation for the roof. Balance meaning equal intake, equal exhaust. When possible, try to do that. That's intended for anybody out there who sells, specifies, inspects, recommends, or installs roofing, insulation, and vents. And the reason for those people, and I think you might have had this gentleman as a guest, George, Aaron Santos, CEO of Roof Coach,
Yep.
past podcast guest of ours. Airvent has a podcast, by the way, called Airing It Out with Airvent. But Aaron, a longtime supporter of sharing content, believes attic ventilation is one of the most overlooked aspects of a roof. And that's we've committed to trying sharing best practices. And I don't want to overstate it, but I get talked to a lot of people, like I said, George, and many people say by providing airflow through the attic, you're giving the roof a healthier life. That's a positive outcome for the person who's living there, the person who paid for the roof, just a good outcome. Tracy Payanek, a former podcast guest and an attendee in our Minneapolis seminar, said, Paul, I believe strongly I take money from a hardworking family in Minneapolis to put on a roof. I owe them the most sound roof I can install for the money they're paying me. So all of that is to be me to say, George, if you put on a roof, whether it's new construction or you're re-roofing, check the ventilation, check it for intake, check it for exhaust. We do a lot of surveys, George. I'm not going to claim they're scientific. They're kind of informal, but it gives us a barometer of what's going on out there. We poll all the time. Hey, roofers, you're on the roof for a living. I mean, you're on the roof for a large part of the year. When you show up to do a roof, what percentage would you say of the current roof's life went down the drain prematurely due to bad airflow? And the results came back 24%. That that that's a high number, 24% of the shingle life down the drain. Attic ventilation, George, and your watchers, your viewers, helps to fight heat buildup, helps to fight moisture buildup, and in climates that have to deal with snow and ice, helps ice dam. That's the goal of proper attic ventilation. Tackle the heat, tackle the moisture, tackle the ice dams. And again, if I'm new with these numbers, George, stop me because I'll go on for a while. But another survey we did. Okay, roofer, when you show up to do a roof, what percentage of the roofs that you're about to work on would you say are on top of attics that today were properly vented? Any guesses, George? What percentage do you think came back as not vented properly? It's a high number.
30%.
77.
Oh wow. Okay.
Again, informal survey, but polling the industry, the thousands that come to our seminars,
Yeah.
that percentage. And that, when I say bad ventilation, either not enough, not installed correctly, that happens, not the right ratio. So I thought I'd just quickly, George, at a very high level, and then we could dig in deeper if your viewers want to dig in deeper, or you do. You fight heat, you fight moisture, you fight ice dams if you're in a snow climate. High level, fight heat. Radiant heat from the sun bakes on the roof. That heat then radiates into the attic. If we let it linger, if we let it camp out in the attic, and we don't get it out of the attic in kind of it can then radiate below into the living space. That's when it becomes problematic. That could affect the comfort level for the occupants, the homeowners. Could make the AC run a little bit harder. That's going to tax, it's going to tax the system. That could be a higher utility bill, potentially. And again, this built up heat could shorten the life, the longevity of the roof. Heat buildup. Then you've got moisture. And my live seminars, George, you might imagine, I'm kind of a passionate presenter, and I often have these little giveaways, these branded giveaways. I ask pop questions. So here's a pop question. How many gallons a day do you think the average family of four generates in water vapor just by occupying the house? How many gallons? We get all kind of crazy gallon guesses. It's 2 to 4. It's 2 to 4 gallons from cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, pets, plants, hang drying wet clothes indoors, perspiration, not to get gross, but perspirate. I mean, that all, so cumulatively, you've got 2 to 4 gallons. Well, the reason this is a wintertime concern, in the wintertime, the cooler months, wherever we are, in most climates, the cooler months, the attic is a bit cooler. This water vapor is attracted to a cooler, drier location. And if it reaches the attic, it could condense as frost or water droplets drip onto the insulation. That could lower the R value. Insulation is rated with an R value. The higher the R value, the greater it can be an insulator. So it could lower the R value. And in time, we might be looking at mold, mildew. It's not automatic that you're going to have mold and mildew, but that could be the eventual outcome. So that's the second reason we vent attics. Moisture, fight moisture. Then thirdly, I'm a Philadelphia born and raised native, George. I live in Dallas now since Airvent hired me in 96, but I'm born and raised up north in Philly. Philly, we share snow. In colder climates, you get snow. Well, snow on the roof is one of the reasons, contributing factors to ice dams. Now, you don't have to have an ice dam because there's snow, but you got to have snow for there to become an ice dam. Bad ventilation can exasperate things and cause an ice dam. And I can get into that more if your viewers want to, but that's the third and final big picture, big bucket reason we vent attics. Fight heat, fight moisture, fight ice dams. And then I just wanted to segue, George, please. And I'm kind of doing like a synopsis of the key points of our program that we host. This fighting that I've been describing, fight the heat, fight the moisture, fight the ice dam, forget about it if the attic ventilation is not balanced. And this next seconds, George, honestly, is the essence of the Airvent seminar. If the attic ventilation is not 50% intake at the soffit and 50% exhaust at or near the peak, you're not giving it the best chance to fight that heat and moisture and the ice dams. Look, a lot of this is at the mercy of the builder and the architect and the cards we've been dealt. Not every roof is easy to balance. We know that. We're just saying, step back and evaluate, can I make this balanced? And if the answer is yes, that gives us the best chance to fight the heat, the moisture, and the ice dams. So I thought I'd take a quick moment to pause. That's the key message point of the Airvent seminar, the benefits of ventilation and how you have to have it balanced. I just thought before I segued into something else, is there anything you wanted to ask, George, or should I keep plowing through?
I'm actually curious. I have a question for you, and I have a question for the audience. And it looks like we have a question in the chat, so we got three already.
Great. That's great.
For the audience, I was wondering, like, I know a lot of the guys in here are roofing companies today. Sometimes we have a mix of like PE firms, brokerages, anybody who's involved in roofing manufacturers. It looks like it's a lot of roofing companies today based on
Great.
people who signed up. Appreciate you guys being here, but I had a question for you guys in the audience. I was curious about how many of you actually are kind of cognizant or pay attention to ventilation when you're doing a roof for a customer. So if you check that out, and by the way, guys, this will be private. Nobody will see that you don't. But if you do, I'm not going to share it. But if you do check ventilation when you're doing a roof, can you drop a one in the chat? And if you don't, just drop a two. And I promise I won't out you to anybody. This is the private and will not go public anywhere. But if you do or check attic ventilation when you're doing a roof, could you just drop a one in the chat? And then if not, a two. Quick little survey, Paul. I'm interested to see how many of
I
our
like it.
contractors actually pay attention to it.
I like it, George.
Okay, we got a one. We got Mr. J over here. Okay, 100% check rate. 200% check for Mike Wilson. Okay,
Love it.
awesome. And I think we have 8 other people in attendance right now, so I'll assume the other ones are twos, if not answered. And then, okay, so I mean, that's 6 out of 8 who potentially don't check it. And if you guys do check it, I apologize for mislabeling you, but that's a pretty percentage. So, the follow-up question I had around that is you said 50% intake, 50% exhaust.
Yes.
How to go about? I've only sold like 3 roofs in my day because I want to see what the sales process looked like.
Yes.
How do you check that when you're on the roof?
Yeah, so the visibly you have to get eyes. You have to get eyes on the roof, get eyes on the soffit, do a walk around in the perimeter. We always recommend if it's safe and practical, can you get into the attic?
All right.
You should be able to see you should be able to see daylight in the attic during the day. At the eave line, that's telling that there's intake vents. And then you got to do some math. And there are apps out there. I'm not going to make this a commercial, but there are apps. Various brands have calculators. So
Yeah.
it's driven by the attic size. The attic size dictates how many vents you need, and then the app would guide you. I can do it at the end of this if you want, George. But there's for the amount of vents. But it starts with getting eyes on the property, eyes in the attic, and doing some quick math, and that'll tell you, okay, this attic is. I'm making this up. This attic is 2,000 square feet. A 2,000 square foot attic needs X number of intake vents and Y number of exhaust. Am I seeing that today before my team does this roof? No, I don't see a single intake vent. All right, let's talk to the homeowner that for this new roof, you're going to need intake. No, 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 give me what I had. Well, homeowner, here's the thing. If I give you what you had was improper. And this brand new roof comes with a warranty. And that warranty is tied to proper attic ventilation. So, and I'm not wiggling around all this, but that's the answer, George, is you got to get eyes on it and run some numbers. And there are tools to guide the industry on those numbers.
Okay. And I think that's a good selling tool too, right? If we have roofer A come in and they don't talk about attic ventilation, they may not even know it's a thing, and your roofer B coming in saying,
Yeah,
"Hey, I'm seeing XYZ in addition.
yes,
And this is why it matters," right? I think that creates more of a trust that, hey, this guy's going to do a better job for me, even if he
George,
is maybe slightly higher.
yes. Again, I know we're not going to be able to do a full seminar. The full Airvent seminar is 2 hours.
Yeah.
We're only together for an hour, but
We'll
one of
do
our very
Airvent Mini.
yeah, you do Airvent many, but one of our popular segments is selling tips,
Yeah.
and we'll get into it a little bit, but selling tips, and it's 3 shared with us frustration points from roofers, and here's one of them. Since you brought it up, hey, George's Roofing homeowner here. You're the 3rd roofer to my house. You're the 4th roofer to my house. But you're the first one to bring up this balanced ventilation stuff. It can't be that important. No one else brought it up. And then the roofers who successfully transition away from that say, homeowner, I don't know why the other 3 companies did not bring this up. They should have. But I'll tell you this, you buy a roof from George, you're getting balanced attic ventilation. The shingle warranty is tied to it. Building code calls for it. We have a good reputation locally. Google us if you want. It's how we do a roof. And that's a very quick version of how we counter that. But yes, absolutely, George. The roofer who does not bring up attic ventilation is probably going to have a lower price. And then Paul brings it up. My price is going to be higher, but I can explain my higher price. Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever, I had an idea come to mind, my sales brain is ticking a little bit. Have you ever had it where like the roofer in the home says, yeah, 100%, you don't have to take my word for it. Just Google how important attic ventilation is for the
Not
health
not
of my
quite
roof,
like
right?
yeah, not quite like that, but that's a good right. Just Google it. See
Yeah.
what comes up, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't trust me. Don't take my
Don't
word for it.
trust
Just
me.
Google it,
Yeah.
and if it's important, great. And if it's not, you could say I'm a scam artist, right, or whatever
Yeah,
it may
exactly.
be. So,
Exactly. I will say this, George, today's homeowner, I don't want to paint too broad of a stroke here with the paintbrush, but many homeowners today are a little bit more savvy
mhm.
and they'll do some baseline research, is what I'm hearing. And but you'll get a few that just, no, Len, this is what I had. It's time for a new roof. Repeat what I had, even if what I had was wrong. So, George, I wanted to just, are we good to keep going or more
Yeah,
questions?
let's keep rocking
Yeah.
and rolling. We've gone. I know we had
Yeah.
some questions lined up. We'll get into those.
I
Yeah.
wanted to add because my mind is a little bit detouring. It's not just the vent makers out there who want you to vent the attic. There are other interested parties. One of them is ARMA. ARMA stands for the Asphalt Roofing Manufacturers Association, ARMA. It is the professional umbrella of shingle makers. They represent shingle makers. I'm actually the chairperson of the ARMA Ventilation Task Force. Sounds more impressive than it really is, but we meet quarterly via Zoom. We're going to meet tomorrow, actually, and we discuss best practices. ARMA, in other words, the shingle maker, wants us to move air through the attic. The shingle maker. And then finally, the NRCA, the Professional Organization for Residential Roofing Contractors. They want us to move air through the attic and not just move the air through the attic, but keep it balanced. Keep it balanced. So, George, I thought at this point, if you're okay with it, I would segue to what we call our exhaust vent decision tree. This has become a very popular segment of the Airvent seminar, and it was suggested by past attendees of our program.
So this kind of helps people decide, like, hey, is it properly ventilated or not? Outside of like
Yes.
the applications you mentioned. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love doing that myself
So,
personally.
so brand aside,
Yeah.
we're going to send you an aerial view, Airvent, whoever, of a future project. Could you give us guidance on how you would vent? That's usually how it happens. Some view or a photo, and they want our guidance. Not your vents, any vent. So we call it the exhaust vent decision tree. And here it is, George. I'm gonna lay it out there, and then we can dig in. We're always going to ask the first branch on the tree, without fail, yes or no, roofer, would ridge vent work? Would ridge vent be the exhaust vent that you could use? Do you have enough horizontal peak for ridge vent to work? And that's where the mat them's in handy here, George. You can just run some numbers. I'm going to make this up for the 2,000. I'm totally making this up just to give you a visual. 2,000 square foot attic. I would need 50 feet of horizontal peak. Okay. Well, Paul, you're on Main Street right now. Does that roof have 50 feet of horizontal peak? Yes, it does. Ridge vent. No, it doesn't. It's got 35 feet. Ridge vent off the table.
Okay.
Ridge vent's not an option. The next branch, fans. We would recommend a fan, George, either a roof mount or a gable mount fan, whether it's solar powered or traditional
Is
electric.
this if ridge vent isn't on the table?
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, so I'm going to go down the line. First choice, ridge vent. I can't use ridge vent. I don't want to use ridge vent.
Drawing it out over
Fan,
here.
power fan. They move a lot of air quickly, and usually one or two will do the job. Usually,
Okay.
if you can't use a fan, the next branch on the tree, from us anyway, wind turbines or box vents. I call them box vents, George. They're called different things across the industry. Uh, Pot vents, turtleback vents, roof louvers, but either wind turbines or box vents. We put them on the same branch, George, because honestly, they're basically the same thing. It comes down to cosmetics and quantity. A turbine's kind of tall, it's kind of tallish,
Yeah.
but they pretty good amount of air. A box fan is kind of slender, has a lower profile, so you might need more of those, but they're basically the same thing. And then the last excuse me, on the tree, gable louvers, gable and louvers. That's at a very high level how we would give you guidance if you asked for our guidance. Hey, we're doing this roof next week. We're a little bit stumped. What would you do? Ridge vent, yes or no? Power fan, yes or no? Turbines or box vents, gables. And then
Okay.
you got to give it in, and then you got to give it intake. And intake is the piece of the puzzle, George, that we feel as a company is a bit overlooked. I think the industry is pretty well versed on exhaust. That's my take. It's the intake that doesn't quite get the love it needs. I like to call it a two-piece puzzle. Attic ventilation is just a two-piece puzzle. 50% intake, 50% exhaust. It's the intake portion that's not always addressed.
So is that typically, I guess, what would you have to do to help?
Yeah, so depending on its location, if it's in the soffit and you get permission to work on the soffit, because it might add cost to the project, you could add more intake vents in the overhang or soffit. Or if that's not an option, there are rooftop intake vents, George. They literally install on the roof. And if they're already paying me to give them a new roof, if part of my price is the new roof, while I'm giving you a new roof, I could give you rooftop intake on the edge of the roof. That's another option. So either in the overhang or on the roof. A lot easier on the roof if you're already giving them a new roof.
Okay. Mike Wilson had a question here. He said, "Can fans, turbines, and gables and gable fans be used in concert with ridge vent?" Great question.
Fantastic question. So thank you for that question. I was going to share with you, I'm going to do it right now, the two biggest mistakes in residential attic ventilation. Was his name Mike, George?
Yeah, it was Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Mike, you just identified the second this mistake in residential attic ventilation mixing types. I'll tell you the number one mistake in a minute. So no, the answer is no. Above a common shared attic, that's the key. A shared attic. Pick the best suited type of exhaust and run with it. Mike from Philly. Hey, I like that, Mike. All right. I see his note. Yeah. Love it. Yeah, so type that's most appropriate. If it's ridge vent, run with ridge vent. If it's turbines, stick with turbines. Now sometimes, if I may, George, Mike, if I may, it just comes to my mind the kind of comments I get live. Well, I got this homeowner on my case. They're all but begging me to come back and add a fan because they don't think the ridge vent is working in the thick of summer. And they will pay me handsomely to add a fan. Keep your money, homeowner, and I'm not coming back. We can reevaluate if ridge vent's the right answer, but mixing types is never the right answer. George, it short circuits the ventilation system. When you mix types, it short circuits, it interrupts the airflow. Air wants to follow the path of least resistance. It wants to come in low. That's where the air's supposed to come in the attic, low, do its job, and exit high. Nothing in between. If I mix, because I think I'm giving the primary the boost, it's actually counter to that. It's making it inefficient. The air become concentrated in the upper region of the attic. A roofer in Boston gave us this analogy to get the homeowner to see the light of day, if I may. Take a soft drink straw. You got a soft drink straw, and you're going to put it in your Coca-Cola, your lemonade, your sweet tea. The straw's got two ends. Take a sip. Refreshing. Pop a pinhole in that straw. Pop a pinhole in that straw. Now take a sip of lemonade. It doesn't flow as well. That's what you're doing to the attic when you add a second type of exhaust.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
fan, I guess that would be lower on the roofs. That would be kind of
Correct.
in the airflow
Yeah.
ridge vent.
Yep.
Interesting.
So the air would be concentrated between the distance of exhaust A and exhaust B.
So just making it
We
less efficient, basically.
exactly.
Overall.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Since we're on this subject, can I just dive into the number one mistake?
Go for it, please.
The number one mistake in residential attic ventilation is overlooking intake. And it's tied into what we just said about the two-piece puzzle. Too many times, proper exhaust is given, but the intake is left insufficient, either because of lack of knowledge, they don't want to do it, no offense. The homeowner doesn't have it in the budget. Look, I know I'm not the one paying the bill, but if I'm roofing for the minute, but I'm certainly not a roofer. But I do pretend to be one when I'm hosting the seminars to keep it fun. You're paying me, homeowner, and my team next week to do your roof. It's X thousands of dollars. I'm telling you politely, you don't have good intake. If I simply give you brand new weatherwood shingles and give you good exhaust, both of which you have now, but I'm going to give you newer versions, and we don't improve the intake, you're putting the warranty at risk, the longevity of the roof is at risk, energy bills could be compromised, and frankly, I don't want to put my name on it. I don't want to put my name on that project. So let's put intake in the budget. And then again, it's not my company, George, but many roofers tell me, Paul, we'll work with the homeowner. We offer financing. I don't want to speak for other people, but enough roofers have told me we'll offer financing. We'll come up with a payment plan, but I don't want to put my name on the project knowingly doing it wrong. Most roofers in our seminars will tell us, I do not want to knowingly do it wrong.
Yeah, you're doing a disservice to the homeowner then, right? And that's where you'll get a lot of guys. Hey, I want to go with the Chuck and the truck because they're cheapest, and then 3 years down the road, you have a roof leak, and they're maybe out of business, don't exist anymore.
Yeah,
And financing too. I haven't done this study since 2021, but we were running with clients who had financing versus those that didn't. It increased their close rate by 60%. Off topic, but it's key,
I
right?
like it.
It's a payments economy, that we have right now. So if you don't have that, and they're choosing between a maybe more expensive company that has financing versus the one that doesn't, they're likely going to go with the one that can offer them
Exactly.
payments. So
And I brought that up, George, because I kept on thinking about the pain points that are vocalized during the seminar. Okay, so George is higher than Paul,
yeah,
but George sounds more knowledgeable. My family doesn't have the budget for this. Now you do. Now you do because George is offering a way to pay down the road. Anyway, yeah,
it's the same thing
yeah,
with a car. Nobody's going to a dealership anymore, dropping 20 grand. I mean, that would be a cheap car nowadays. 30.
yeah, but yeah, yes.
Off topic, have you seen that new car that Bezos is making? It's like the
No,
modular. Anyway, we'll talk about that off camera.
okay, okay, sure,
I'm
sure.
super
Thank
excited
you.
about that. It's like $20,000, like a modular truck. Completely off topic, but payments and then cars. Anyway, that's my ADHD brain, Paul, taking me
I
on
love it. I love it.
completely
It's
off
good, George.
topic. But Raphael had a question for us. What's the best way to properly ventilate finished attics?
Okay, Raphael, thank you for the question. So by finished attic, someone's occupying that attic. It's no longer an attic per se. The best way to do that, Raphael, and again, cost aside, I'm not to the cost or the practicality of it, but when you have a finished attic that now I'm occupying, it'd be ideal if you could create an airflow space between the deck and the insulation,
Yeah.
which is what you would do for a vaulted ceiling anyway. So we define attics two ways. 90% of the attics in North America are walkable, crawlable, pop my head in. Maybe my baseball cards from my youth are up there. 90% are traditional attic, and you vent those with intake vent in the soffit. You pick your exhaust vent. The other 10% of the attics are what we call a vaulted cathedral ceiling attic, which is kind of what you're doing when you turn an attic into a finished attic. You then got to move the air to between the deck and the insulation. Much easier to do during the build or when you re-roof. Does that help, Raphael?
Give him a second to respond here. That's actually what I have right above my head right now. So, and I was always wondering, hey, why is there like space
Yes.
between
Yes.
the ceiling? Raphael, does that answer your question there? Yes, with inline vents, I guess. Not sure if that was an
In,
additional question. Yeah.
is inline of intake, Raphael? I wasn't familiar with inline. Okay, yes. Yeah, good deal. Yes. Yeah, you could pick that makes sense. For the exhaust, I think ridge vent would be ideal. Otherwise, you got to hit every cavity with a box vent or something, and that won't look very attractive. But you've moved the attic now to above the roof between the deck and the insulation, and that little channel, that little pathway is your attic.
Okay. I just saw Mike said soffits get painted over. There's some
Uh,
exterior painters on here sometimes. How do they avoid
yes. Oh man, I
that?
love it. So Mike from I imagine, yeah.
Mike from Philly,
So
yeah.
we have boy, we have a list of photos that we show in the Airvent seminar of common mistakes. Here are the three most common intake mistakes. The insulation in the attic blocking the intake vent. Whether done deliberately or by not knowing, that's not good. So what's that mean for the roofer? Well, the roofer, who's now selling a new roof, getting paid for a new roof, get eyes in the attic. If you don't see that daylight that I talked about, check to see if the insulation is blocking the intake. Pull the insulation back, drop an insulation baffle, paint it over soffits. Common, common mistake. Homeowner who wants to make the exterior more pretty, which is fine. It's their house. I get it. But the paint chokes the airflow. The paint. I said, what do I do? I'm not the painter. I'm a roofer. Well, for starters, point it out. Point it out. I did a walk around. You've got currently painted over soffit. Now, I know we're not doing your soffit, but if I'm going to give you a new roof, we should look at your soffit to be improved. It's going to add to the project, but it's going to help avoid a potential callback.
Yeah. And there's issues with the roof, and that's expensive, right? Having an issue with
Yeah,
your roof. I,
yeah, exactly.
I see what these
Yeah,
sell for. Like, it's not a cheap project by any means, but
right,
okay.
right.
And so again, ensuring that that ventilation's done properly. We got another question from Jay over here. I'm appreciating all the great questions today, guys. That's awesome. Have you noticed a particular part of the country? Oh, you've been around the country, so this will probably be relevant to you. Have you noticed a particular part of the country that has poor standards for venting roofs and is cold? Okay, so those are two questions. We'll start with number one, and then I'll move on to number two.
Sure. Okay. So poor standards. So I don't want to make this a code webinar, but I do like the International Residential Building Code, IRC, which is released every 3 years, and it's for every part of the country. And it's a blanket statement, chapter R806. You need to have equal intake, equal exhaust. So if your question really is not the standards, but maybe some parts of the country are executing it better than others, if that's the question, I do notice that. I am a little bit tainted or blinded by who comes in by the seminars. So if you come to the seminar, I got to believe you're interested in getting better at what you do. But some people share with me privately, not out loud, and that's cool. Paul, we've been doing this wrong. And now that we've heard this message, we're going to get it right. So I would say this: every industry has contractors, I believe, who are not well versed or as well versed in attic ventilation, but they're trying to get better at it. That's a statement I feel comfortable saying. The code is for everybody. What was the second part of that question, George?
And then, so I'm just gonna assume you're gonna say it's like any Giants fans, since you're an Eagles fan. Typically, the worst
Oh,
ventilation, is that what it is?
well, so I
Well, I
don't
guess
want
you're a
I don't
Cow.
want to leave the webinar, so I'm
We
gonna
gotta
fill it up.
polarize. It makes it more entertaining.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I'm a born and raised Philly kid who's like the Cowboys my youth,
oh, for
but
real?
I'm a Cowboys fan because they've been non-relevant for 3 decades.
There we go, Mike. Dallas. Okay. Well, the second question was okay, so basically cold versus hot, like which is more of a risk? Is it, Jay, your question, is
Okay,
that more to the health of the roof, or do you understand that question, Paul?
I think I do.
Okay.
Which climate condition more problematic, if I could interpret it that way? Is the heat more of a concern? Okay, correct. Here's how I'm going to answer it. The heat will affect the long-term life of the roof more than the cold will. But the cold can lead to problems which could affect the occupant's health more than the heat. I'm talking about mold and mildew. Together, bundled together, I don't want any of those problems. Heat's more about the life of the roof and energy bills. The cold is more about the life of the health of the occupants, excuse me, because mold and mildew can result from the moisture and the condensation. Ice dams could also damage the roof, so I don't want to dismiss ice dams, but you can be in a cold region and not always have ice dams. But you could be definitely in a cold region and still have moisture issues. I hope that helps. Cold's more about the health and the moisture, mold. Does that help? Yeah. Yeah,
Jay
okay,
said, yeah,
good. Good.
that makes sense. I'd rather not breathe in like mold on sleeping either. I feel like that's not
Yeah.
great for the health.
And look, there was a time, George, where mold was like a buzzword.
Yeah,
It's not as much, and I'm not going to say all mold is problematic, but it's certainly unsightly.
yeah,
I don't mold in my attic, whether it's a dangerous kind of mold or not. Let's get rid of that mold.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, that actually led to my other question that I forgot about till right now. You had mentioned proper ventilation helps with ice damming. How does that affect ice damming? Like
yeah.
having
Thank
proper,
you.
yeah,
Yeah, sure. And I can talk about more of this point if someone wants to reach out to me. If you end up sharing my contact information, George, or I
yeah.
can come
Towards the
back
end,
and
we can
yeah,
figure that out, get
beautiful.
that popped in because I want to make sure people get there.
So the reason we get ice dams in cold regions is escaped heat from the living space. So you've got snow on the roof. You got to have snow on the roof. That's a requirement. So the snow is melting unevenly. That's the problem. Well, what's causing it to melt unevenly? A, escaped heat from the living space into the attic. Recessed can lights, incorrect insulation. That's the biggest problem. Second, if I don't have balanced attic ventilation, it makes the snow melt unevenly as well because now my attic temperature is much different than outside temperature, the ambient temperature, and we want the attic to be kind of similar to the if it's 20 outside, I'm in Philadelphia, I'm in Wisconsin, I'd like the attic to be about 25, 30 maybe, not 40, 50. So the attic ventilation helps the attic temperature similar to the outside temperature. So ideally the snow melts uniformly. It's the uneven snow melt, George, at a very high level that makes the ice dam form. The snow melts unevenly. It starts at the peak where it's warmest. It runs down, hits the colder overhang. It might refreeze. Any additional snow melt that then runs down and hits this refrozen block could form the dam. That's a very high level. We've done a podcast on the topic if you want to check it out one day, but and I can always down the road with ice dam discussions too.
That's super cool. I wouldn't even have thought of that, right? Because then you're getting at the top of the attic, you have a higher temperature, melts, comes down
Yes,
obviously as it gets colder or freezes, and then you get the
yes.
shingles. Okay, interesting. All right, we got another question from Mike. Is it a question? Let's see. Mike Wilson. I started roofing in Philly, then moved to Massachusetts, many ice
Oh,
dams. Then to North Carolina, zero ice dams. Yeah,
interesting. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. So he's had the bit of all the climates, really. Yeah.
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 Mike, which one's
Awesome.
most problematic for you? We'll re-answer Jay's question. Hot or cold? What do you prefer? Engaging the audience.
I like it.
We'll say we'll continue so we don't have an awkward silence. But Mike, let us know.
That's
Hot or
okay.
cold? What do you like? Question mark, question mark. Oh, you prefer
He
hot.
might have
What's up?
he might not have heard the question maybe.
Oh, Mike, I was just asking, do you prefer hot or cold? You've been in North Carolina, Philly, and Massachusetts at this point. We'll take a poll, one of one. But Mike, let us know.
I'm gonna say
Um,
Mike is gonna say cold.
I don't know. We'll see. There's
JC by
thoughts.
far.
I'm lost now. I think I
All right,
confused all
too.
of us. Sorry, Mike. That was my bad.
That's okay.
Are you trying to say North Carolina, maybe? It's probably auto correcting the JC.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. NC.
Yep, there we go. North
Yep, there we
Carolina.
go. Good catch by
Okay.
you, George. Good catch.
There we
North
go.
Carolina. Okay. Warm.
All right, we got one more question from Clara. You talked about premature shingle failure. What are the key signs to look for on a roof that indicate poor ventilation?
So visually from a distance, you might see some buckling. You might see some deck. So the deck might not be laying flat underneath those shingles anymore. Up close, of course, this will require being up close, a roof inspection. You'll see some premature degradation of the shingles. And time out for a second. Look, shingles are going to age over time. We can't stop the natural aging of shingles. That's not what we're saying. We're saying the excessive, rapid aging of shingles. So granule loss, curling, and storms take a toll on shingles. I'm not talking about a storm rolled through and the shingle is shot. I'm talking about no storm's been through, but this thing, which is only 8 years old, looks 28 years old. So yeah, that's kind of yeah. Hope that helps.
Yeah. I had a follow-up question on that actually. One's
Please.
around costs and then one's around like kind of getting it into the organization. So a lot of companies, we're not as owners the ones in the field anymore doing sales, etc. And so
Yes.
you've spoken with a lot of roofing company owners. What are the best ways you see, or I guess what's one immediate action or practical step that way we can make it actionable that somebody on this call could take today to improve their team's ventilation knowledge and ensure kind of consistent and high quality installations, right? Because you can't always be in the field.
No, you can't. I would say any kind of formal-ish training you do, you meet quarterly, you meet weekly, have your foreman, your estimators be knowledgeable about it's gonna be balanced, equal in, equal exhaust, equal out. Don't just repeat what's don't just give them what they've got tomorrow. Give them make sure evaluate if it's proper and avoid the two common mistakes. Don't mix and make sure there's intake. So any formal training, so a lot of contractors can't come to our seminar as an entire company, but they'll send two key people And then they contact me, can you do a private seminar for my entire team? And I'm willing to do that, by the way, George. But there are tools on our YouTube channel. We have a podcast, like I said. So you could do little trainings as a company for your team at large. Does that help, George?
Yeah, I think so. And I think you kind of mentioned doing it quarterly and weekly too. I think that's like even with my team, I noticed if I don't consistently kind of hammer home the things they need to be doing,
Yeah.
things fall off, right? People get busy, they get distracted. So
Yes.
having that cadence is key. Even for sales training, people say, "Hey, how does my sales team get better?" Right? How often do you do training with them? Their calls with them, help them get better, and it's usually never. Which is fine that it's like that right now, but fix it. Okay. No, that's awesome. And I think that answers my question. I think we have one more where it's a recommendation. Let's see. Mike Wilson. Love the
Oh,
love
I
from
love it.
Philly, Mike. I'm down here in Baltimore, so hour south of y'all, hour 15. But I'd recommend that hail damage is aerial concern. Do not walk on roof before the adjuster shows up. He might say you destroyed the shingles and voided the warranty. Ask me how I know. Okay. Let the adjuster be the first on the roof. I think that's a good point of advice there, Mike. That way
Yes.
it's not,
Yeah.
hey, did this guy come in with a hammer and smack it? Are there any lesser known? Okay, Clara has a question. Are there any lesser known or advanced ventilation? And by the way, guys, real quick, we have about 8 minutes left. So if you have any questions, drop them in now because we're about to wrap up here. Um, but are there any lesser known or advanced ventilation products that you see as game changers for certain roof types?
I would say, George, what's underused is the rooftop intake, which gives the roofer complete control over intake if he or she doesn't want to fool around with the overhang, the soffit. Rooftop intake, ours is called the Vent, but there's about 7 brands out there. It's a 4 foot stick. You shingle over it, so you match it with the shingle covering, and it gives you rooftop intake. It's not new. It's not a new concept. I think it's underused. That's what I would say.
Okay. Is your question, Clara? Cool. Awesome. Alrighty. Well, I do want to ask if you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat, but we're getting close on time here, Paul. So I did want to ask if people want to learn more about roof ventilation. And by the way, you did a great job on making this topic. Like, who thinks it's going to be a sexy, fun topic to talk about? But I actually really enjoyed this call, right? So you
Thank
do a
you.
great job of taking the unsexy and making it sexy. And maybe it's sexy now. I think it is, right? I'm very excited about it. But with that being said, if people want to learn more, obviously you have quite a few different things you're doing. But let's say, hey, I'm roofer George. I want to learn more about ventilation and maybe learn more from Paul. What's the best way for them to kind of get in your ecosystem, learn more from you, talk to you, whatever it may be?
Yeah, absolutely. So one, try to visit our YouTube channel, the Airvent YouTube channel. Man, we dump new videos almost, not, I don't want to say weekly, but definitely multiple times a month, bite-sized
I'm
videos.
grabbing that from YouTube right now. Sorry,
Oh,
Paul.
great. Yeah, yeah, beautiful. So there's a bunch of informative content. Even filmed a seminar and edited it to the nuts and bolts. You can watch that with your team. It could be a future team training. Can I share the website address, George? Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm actually dropping the YouTube channel in the Zoom
Uh,
chat now. So if you guys want to go there, check it out. And then do you want me to
yeah,
drop the web address there too, Paul? Make it easy
if you
for you.
can, yeah, GibraltarBuildingProducts.com. That's our parent company, GibraltarBuildingProducts.com. It's kind of a mouthful, sorry, but we have
Yeah.
something called Airvent University. Once you go to the website, we have called Airvent University inside the Learning Hub, monthly podcast, monthly pop quiz, monthly lesson plan. They're things I think they're fun. They could be the content of your trainings also in the future. And then you're welcome to reach out to me, George. I don't know how you want to handle that, but I like to be a resource to the industry. You're welcome to reach out to me. I try my best to help. I don't always have an answer, but I'll try. I'll try.
Yeah. Are you cool if I'm into the Facebook group? That's where a lot of
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
conversation
Yeah,
happens.
please. Yeah.
Awesome. So how would you hear after that? For those of you that aren't in the Facebook group too, by the way, if you do have additional questions after this and you want to speak to any of our speakers, they typically come in. You can just tag them, and everybody does this free of charge, by the way. So please be grateful to them. They're taking time out of their week to help you. But I just dropped the Facebook group link in the chat as Paul. I'll send you a
Thank you.
direct invite there. Uh,
Thank you, George.
but yeah, with that being said, guys, Paul, thank you so much for coming on today, man. I don't know
You're
why, but I'm
welcome.
excited about air vents. I didn't think it was something. Honestly, I didn't think it was something I was gonna be excited about, but
Thank you. I
I learned
enjoyed
something
being your guest. I want to thank viewers for joining us today. I enjoyed this time together. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
for sure. And any other final notes on your end before I open it up for final Q&A?
No, other than just be open-minded to improving it if it's improvable, and don't let the other competition, especially a low ball competitor, beat you out. Just explain why you're a little bit higher and what you're getting for that higher price. Good luck out there.
Thank you, Paul. And Mike, last final note from him said, "Boo Cowboys." Good stuff.
It's okay.
All righty, Paul. Well, I appreciate you, man. I'll give everybody like 30 seconds for final questions. Any questions, drop them in the chat now. We'll get it done. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great day. So 30, 29, 28. I'll see if anything pops in here. I've noticed it takes a lot longer than I think to type a question. So I used to like
Sure.
ask and then wait 5 seconds and then move on, and then everybody would have questions.
Yeah, there's a little delay. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, it looks like we're all good there. Thank you all for coming on today for the
Thank you.
Roofing Success Series. I appreciate each and every single one of you, and I especially appreciate you, Paul, coming on and sharing your knowledge
You're
today.
welcome, George. I appreciate you and your viewers. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.